today we have a reaction video to react to. It is called Concurrent Invincible Beat Omni Man. Actually, it's Concurrent Invincible Stop Omni Man. Of course, if you're new, make sure you subscribe. As always, hope you enjoy the content. And let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's just hop right into it. You know what I mean? Let's go.
In the season 3 finale of Invincible, we'd see Mark be put up to his greatest test yet, one even comparable to the great Omni Man himself, the battle-crazy and undefeated Viltrumite, Conquest.
Yes.
In this battle, we would witness Mark put every single thing he has and more into battling this Viltrumite, coming out on top and proving himself.
How do y'all feel about Invincible Season 3? But not only Invincible Season 3, but how do y'all feel about Mark, beating Conquest? Because he didn't beat Conquest because he's stronger. He beat Conquest because, well, due to him being, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, due to him having the adrenaline boost and Conquest not taking him serious, he won the fight. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments.
Once again to be Earth's greatest defender, maybe even the greatest of all time. Invincible has clearly come a long way since beginning his journey as a superhero, and it's finally paid off here. But this allows me to wonder, since Invincible has become way more powerful as time has passed, what if we were to place the current Invincible in the fight against Omni Man from Season 1? Would he be able to stop the Viltrumite and knock some sense into him, or is it going to end the same way as last time? In this video, I intend to examine the strength of Omni Man, the current Mark, and do a bit of analysis on their characters, all in order to answer whether or not Mark would be able to at least hold off Omni Man if he were to be placed in the same situation as their infamous fight back in Season 1. Just to make the video not complicated, let's say in order for Mark to succeed, he simply has to not lose, whether this be by defeating Omni Man or making Omni Man leave without receiving a brutal beatdown. As long as he can hold his own and protect more people than before while doing so, it's a W in my book. There will be a few spoilers for Season 4 in this video to reinforce the accuracy of my conclusion, so here's a warning for that, but you can still watch the video all the way up.
Not him saying these are spoilers for Season 4. Buddy, I read all the comic books and everything like that. I just want to know what's going on. So let me stop pausing the video. I'm gonna let y'all get into it. I'm sorry.
Up until I give you my answer. With that said, since I value the time of both you and I'm gonna cut this intro short and we can get straight into the video. Before we get into anything, I believe it's most important to establish Omni Man's strength as of Season 1, as he's the benchmark of the video, and the character will be comparing the.
Okay, so we're using the TV show characters to define if the characters in the TV show currently can beat up each other. Okay.
Current Mark II. First, Omni Man or Nolan, whatever you want to call him, is literally the Superman of Invincible. Compared to all other heroes and villains on Earth, he has it all. The strength to level entire civilizations with ease, the speed to move across planets and galaxies in a relatively short time, and his durability is so high that you can even consider him to be invulnerable compared to most of the cast, as he's able to withstand most attacks in the series and completely shrug them off. Nolan was without a doubt the most powerful hero on Earth at the time of Season 1, and the second most powerful person there. And if him being inspired by Superman himself wasn't enough to convey his overwhelming strength, we'd see that he'd be able to completely solo the Guardians of the Globe, which is the Justice League of Invincible. Although their combined teamwork would actually give him some trouble and allow them to hurt him, he was still able to defeat them with not much difficulty. This team also includes the Immortal we'll be speaking about individually, as given his name, Omni Man did not put him down for good like he did the others. Omni Man in the very next episode goes on to destroy the entire Flaxan civilization by apparently just flying at very high speeds across the planet. Most important of all of his fights lies in the climax of Season 1, where he fights both Immortal and Invincible. First we'll go over Immortal. In their rematch, Immortal's actually able to land a few hits and damage Nolan, albeit very little. He was even able to clash with him. This is important as we see that when Invincible goes to fight Nolan after, even his strongest punches couldn't make the man budge. Now we also have to keep in mind that Mark damn near always holds back. He can be fighting Satan himself and he's still gonna hold back, so he more than likely wasn't giving it his all here.
That's crazy though. Why would he hold back? Why would he hold back? Like, let's really think about that, guys. Why would Mark hold back against his own father? He can't, or he'll just lose.
But given the circumstances, I'm sure he was using most of his strength. All things considered, Immortal provides the best gauge of strength we can possibly get because he's always around in the series, and we can always compare Mark's strength to Immortal's as they tend to fight the same people or each other in seasons 2 and 3. Covering Mark's strength was important because his season 1 self and Immortal seemed to be at least close or at least relative to each other considering their performances against Nolan. I would say Immortal did a bit better as Nolan was trying to get rid of him, whereas for Mark, he wanted to convince Mark to join the Viltrum Empire through force, and when his own child would refuse to fight, instead choosing to plead his love for his father, Nolan would eventually be swayed and give up on the battle entirely. Keep in mind, this little moment is important to the outcome of the video. Besides his feats and coverage for season 1, I believe it's also important to mention the fact that Nolan is a Viltrumite elite, meaning that he's one of the most powerful Viltrumites in existence. There's a reason why Planet Viltrum would send 3 Viltrumites in order to find Nolan and capture him, rather than sending 1 Viltrumite, as they typically do when they're trying to conquer entire planets. He's a prodigy amongst prodigies. Although this establishes how powerful Nolan truly is in the grand scheme of things, this is not the only reason why I had to mention this. I also brought this up because this same ranking amongst Viltrumites applies to Conquest, the Viltrumite that Mark has managed to defeat in the season 3 climax. So with them both being elite amongst the Viltrumites, we know that they're at least relative in power. All in all, I think I've covered enough of Nolan's strength to establish him as a benchmark in the video, and judging from what we've seen, we'd better hope that Mark has made significant progress in the last 2 seasons, or he's screwed. Now getting into Mark and estimating.
When I tell you, I don't generally think that Mark would win a fight against Omni Man currently. But if you took current Invincible after the fight against Conquest, I think that Mark can talk some sense into Omni Man. He could probably get some hits in. He could probably take that beating a lot better. I don't think Omni Man would be able to do what he did to him in the second go round. But I mean, if you read the comics and you see what happened, he was kind of beating down on him, but like Mark was just like, okay, I'm still gonna talk to you, and then he ended up detaining him and everything like that. So they ended up getting him detained with the help of the Guardians of the Globe. But honestly, Mark, by some point, he will be stronger than Omni Man. But like, the problem is like we don't get to see that. We don't even get to see that head-to-head clash. So, you know.
His current level of strength, I think what's most important is focusing on his most major battles throughout the last 2 seasons. For example, Mark has run-ins with a fair share of Viltrumites. First, he battles all 3 of them alongside his father on planet Thraxa, but he primarily fights one of them alone, which is Thula. Mark is getting whooped when he's holding back and not really trying like he normally does. But when Nolan pushes him to go all out, we see that he's more than a match for the pure-blooded veteran Viltrumite. She does get the best of him at the end with a little trick, but he was still certainly close to beating her. This fight shows us that if Mark really does cut back, loose, he can match other Viltrumites.
I know nobody likes to hear about him holding back, because it's like, what do you mean he's holding back? Stop saying he's holding back. He's just getting his ass kicked. Listen. He was holding back in that fight. And then when he stopped holding back, he was kicking her ass easy. And then he decided to try to plead with her instead of just kicking her ass. Which, if he didn't, she would be gone. He would have beat her, and Omni Man wouldn't have been taken. Like, it would have just been like that.
Another battle he has against another elite like Conquest and Nolan is against a Viltrumite named Anissa. She bullies the hell out of Mark in their fight, but she's not really there to beat him up badly or anything, so the fight wasn't life-risking or anything like that. So here we know that Mark wasn't really going all out because he had no reason to. This fight serves to show us that despite Mark's growth in Season 2, he wasn't close to hanging with the elites just yet, even after his fight on Thraxa with the other Viltrumites. Now, Season 3 is where Mark's power seems to get a decent boost. We firstly see that Mark has far surpassed the Immortal, as Mark is able to easily defeat the one from the future. And not only this, but the Immortal was getting mollywopped by weaker, alternate versions of Mark while having help.
I gotta stop.
Mark with these feats alone display that he's made massive gains over time, because he went from being relative with the Immortal in Season 1 to just being able to rip his head off and call it a day if he pleased in Season 3. From the way it seems at the moment, it looks as if Mark can put down the Immortal with the same difficulty that Nolan can, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Not only this, but we also have Mark's battle against Conquest. Despite receiving some help and actually going all out here for once, he did manage to defeat the undefeated elite Viltrumite. Mind you, he wasn't even able to scratch the other two high tiers he had fought in seasons 1 and 2, mostly because he was holding back. I think it goes without saying that by the end of season...
No. You're gonna misconstrue. You're gonna misconstrue. So, Conquest was holding back. Conquest was holding back because he wanted to have fun. So the reason why he lost is because he decided to treat Mark like he was just like he was nothing. Like he wanted to treat Mark like, oh, this is a game. I'm just gonna play around with you. And he took Mark lightly, and that's how Mark won. But in the other fights, was he holding back? I don't. I think with Nolan, I think he was. I think it's because it was his father. He was kind of holding back in the beginning, but he started to realize, oh shoot, I can't hold back. So then he started to just like go ahead and try to, hit him. And he tried to hit him with his hardest punch, and it just, please. But then Nolan just, booted him even further. And then in the Nissa fight, yeah, he was outmatched. He was not gonna beat her. She was stronger than him and faster than him. He was outmatched. Now the second time, from what happened to Mark, I'm not gonna say it, but what happened to Mark, he probably could have beat her and stopped her from doing what she did, but it seems more that like he wasn't in the mood, and I guess he just didn't hold back. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain that one. But the Conquest fight, no, he was going full out in the Conquest fight, but Conquest was holding back. That's why Mark won, because Conquest was holding back and also taking him lightly.
In 3, Mark can finally fill the hole that Omni Man has left with his departure from Earth and hang with some of the best. Now, I wanted to compare their stats as I typically do in videos such as this, but honestly, I think comparing their enemies was the best way to go about this, thanks to Conquest, who's certainly on the same level as Omni Man himself, maybe even a little bit stronger depending on who you ask, and Immortal, who's fought Omni Man twice while giving us a clear...
I would say this, I think Conquest is stronger. Yeah, I think Conquest is stronger. And then when Omni Man, I think Omni Man is like a little bit below him, but the only difference between his fight and Mark's fight is that he was not gonna hold back on Mark. Actually, he was holding back on Mark, but he wasn't gonna hold back to the point where he had to try to convince Mark to join him. Whereas Conquest, just for the love of the game, bro. He was just doing it for the love of the game. That's really what it was with Conquest.
Benchmark for Invincible's progression through the story. So we can just compare them as time goes on and see that the gap between the two heroes of Earth only widens.
None of this was phasing
With
Mark,
both
though.
Season 3 Invincible and Season 1 Omni Man covered, I think it's time we now put this scenario to the test. So now I'm going to send Invincible back in time to the moment that he declared that he...
Okay, he's mentioning the time when, he got sent back in time to the past. Okay, all right.
wouldn't conquer Earth alongside his father, and tell you guys how I believe this fight goes this time around. To note, Mark will remember what happened the first time they fought. The reason why I say this is because Nolan will be dead set on beating Mark to a pulp, even if Mark knows that he's still good deep down inside. Don't ask me how I know this, I just do. To get into their confrontation, I'm sure like last time, the two are going to exchange blows with Mark trying to talk some sense into his father along the way. This resulting in Nolan ignoring all of it and pushing forward with his plan to persuade Mark. Mark, being far more powerful, is going to be able to withstand Nolan's attacks better, but not much better if he's holding back. The fight eventually ends up with Mark being sent to the same city he was in the original fight, but Mark knows what's going to happen at this point if he doesn't use everything he had to at least hold back Omni Man, so he begins to cut loose with the intention of protecting everybody around him. When using all of his strength and his human adrenaline, he manages to beat down Omni Man for a fair bit.
But also when Mark was sent back in time, I'm pretty sure he was sent back in time to his body. So technically speaking, he was still weaker. I'm pretty sure. I would. My conclusion is that he was still weaker because he got sent back in time, and he didn't travel back in time and then just his current self take the place of that version of him. He just took the place. He just basically took the place in that version of his past self, and then he was right there. But I think the difference is that he knew better, so he's like, yeah, no, I'm playing no games now.
Even really wounding the warrior and eventually forcing him back. But it's not enough, and this forces Nolan to actually kill Invincible this time around with a ton of difficulty rather than beating him down and sparing him. I think things will play out this way for a lot of reasons. First, I believe Mark does catch up to Nolan by the end of season 3, because again, his performance against Conquest, and not only
You
this,
think he'll kill
but spoiler
him?
warning again, Conquest and Omni Man do have a pretty brief scuffle in early season 4 content that shows that they're at least equal, whereas Mark was able to defeat Conquest again in that same issue, although
it didn't show that they was equal. And I'm pretty sure in the fight against Conquest, I'm pretty sure Conquest was still stronger, but Mark was not. Mark was much stronger, so he wasn't playing. Mark was not playing
with extreme difficulty.
He was not letting
Mark
go.
and Nolan are at least a relative by the end of season 3. Second, I believe that Nolan actually comes out on top in this scenario, specifically because Mark's behavior in the blue suit is way different from the Invincible from the original season. This Mark will not be pleading to Nolan's humanity, and due to his extremely short patience, he's going to opt for fighting his way out of the situation relatively quick into their confrontation. And if Mark isn't pleading to Nolan's humanity, I don't think he's going to be able to break down his father emotionally.
No, but you can't do that when we have there is visible evidence. It's a great video. I love the video, but there is visible evidence to prove this, that they did fight for the second time. They actually did fight for the second time. Mark got sent back in time. He's not spoiling it for anyone, but Mark did get sent back in time. He probably knows this, but Mark did get sent back in time, and he did fight Omni Man again. But this time, he did get through Omni Man. He did get through Omni Man. Just to sum it up, he did get through Omni Man, and he ended up, he ended up fighting. He ended up, locking Omni Man up. So it's like you can't do that. You can't do that unless I forgot when this video was made.
Like he did before. Season 1 was like a toddler in comparison to Nolan, and past a certain point of pleading to him, he made Nolan realize that he was just beating his son to death. Season 3 Mark is going to put up way more of a fight, be way more willing to fight, and keep Nolan in the heat of battle. I don't think he's going to be emotionally broken down in this instance
because there's proof for it, so you can't say that.
He was before. Lastly, despite everything I said about Season 3 Mark being more willing to throw down, he's still going to hold back because Nolan is his father. In this battle, Mark needs to give it every single thing he has or he's going to lose. If Nolan does threaten Mark's mother, I believe that Mark would cut completely loose and either hold off Omni Man enough to make him leave Earth, or maybe even beat him. But if he's holding back, which he most likely will even if he's tapped into adrenaline, he's gonna lose the fight. With that said, I believe if Season 3 Mark fought Omni Man back in Season 1, he's gonna lose under normal circumstances. But if he fights completely bloodlusted with everything he has, it's a different story. And this story ends with him beating Omni Man, although barely. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to share your thoughts down below.
I see your point. It was 3 weeks ago, so he should know. He should know. But it was 3 weeks ago. Make sure you subscribe to 100. It's at 104K. Hopefully you can get me to there someday. New viewer. I would love it if you would subscribe, and comment down below. What you think. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think the way it is. I don't know. Oh, I got lower. Hold on. There we go. But I think the way um I think the present that it sets, at least for Mark, season 3 Mark could beat season 1 Omni Man. And I think the point he's trying to make is if he's holding back, then he won't beat him. But if he's not holding back, he can beat him or send him away from Earth. But he thinks that season 3 Mark, or comic book Mark, blue suit Mark, my favorite suit. I do love the original, but it's my favorite suit. But he probably thinks that Mark isn't gonna be able to not, convince Omni Man to stop. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Anyways, hope you guys enjoy. Damn, my bad. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you subscribe. And as always, Zola. I'll see you guys in the next video.